This came out when I was 10 and I absolutely loved it. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the X-Men series from the 90s, but my teens started in the 2000s. And with a series that was so geared towards the teen experience of the 2000s, there was just this natural draw towards this series for me. And even looking back on it now, while I do still love the X-Men series of the 90s, X-Men the Animated Series, this series holds a special place in my heart, mostly because of the fact that Scott Summers, Jean Grey, Bobby Drake, they were all teenagers. Like, they weren't adults, they were teenagers. With Beast, who, well, was always the oldest of the original core X-Men. And the fact that they didn't have Angel as an initial part of the group was a bit of a bummer. But it took those characters and put them at the youngest age I had ever seen them. And I loved it. The personality that they gave to Scott Summers' Cyclops was so likable, so appealing. Like, he felt like I had always wanted him to be. Not overly stiff, he had a humor, but he was still a good leader. He could be standoffish, but he could still be a friend. He felt like Leonardo or the Red Ranger. He just felt like the leader that I always felt like Scott could be. And I enjoyed those moments where the comics would acknowledge this side of Scott, because they always go in the direction of making Scott the prick or the jerk or the overly uptight asshole, but it's just like, no, I want Scott to have a little bit more of a fun side to him, especially considering, Scott Summers gets damn near just as much tail as Wolverine does. And it's just like, there's gotta be a general appeal to the guy. And in this series, yeah, there really was an appeal to him. Jean Grey didn't have to be bound by the whole Phoenix storyline. This is the one series where she didn't need to go in the Phoenix. It was hinted to towards the end of the series, but we never had to deal with the whole Phoenix storyline. And it's one of the few times since that storyline was introduced where Jean just got to be Jean Grey. And I loved it. And this was just the Jean Grey I always thought of. It's just like the popular girl. She was beautiful. She's loved by so many people. But they gave her a few downsides too. She could be a little bit insecure and a little bit jealous when it came to Scott. I love the relationship of Scott and Jean. It was just something really appealing towards it. And I guess the thing that really stuck out to me that made me like the relationship is the fact that Wolverine wasn't involved in it. Wolverine felt like a gruff uncle. He could butt heads with Cyclops, but he felt more like just the uncle who drank a lot. He'd just be over on the side, doing whatever. When you needed help, he'd come in, coming to the rescue. Boom, 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 here he comes to save the day. Like, Wolverine and Cyclops and Jean's relationship felt the way that it always should have, where it's just like, look, man, you're being a creep. You're being a creep, Wolverine. You're going in and ruining marriages. We don't need this, dude. Professor X felt like the most fun version that we've seen to date. He didn't feel overly uptight and all that good stuff. Storm was straight up Storm. Like, this was just Storm. There was nothing here towards Storm that I couldn't relate to in any way. It was just the fact that Storm had a sister in this series, and she had a nephew, Spike, who helped to introduce us to the whole situation with, getting to know the X-Men as a whole. So that was a bit of a difference, but it was a nice way of making Aurora feel a little bit more important to the story as a whole. Beast was fun. He didn't come into like the second season, but it was still a very fun character. Still had his intelligence. His transformation was given a lot more emphasis. I would have loved it if he had started out with the others as well, just because, the original five: Beast, Angel, Iceman, Cyclops, and Jean Grey. That would have been really fun, but this direction was still pretty good. Nightcrawler was the most fun character out of this series. Whereas the series from the 90s, he didn't appear enough for my liking. Nightcrawler was all up in this series, and he was young, he was fun. They didn't include his religious nature, but they did have the situation with the Mystique, very much made evident, and that was fun. Spike in general, his character, he feels like he was supposed to be like a reworking of the character Marrow, who could use her bones to make spikes and stuff like that. Rogue? She was. Dude, this version of Rogue from both the movie that came out around the same time as this and this took Rogue in a completely different direction for a good hot while. And while so many people were so in love with the whole Southern Belle angle, calling people Suge and Darling and all that good stuff, like she was straight up off Nolans, the goth angle, I don't know, like there was the rise of the goths, and Rogue just seemed to fit that angle with her standoffish nature and her shrinking violet kind of persona, and she joined the cavalcade of goths that people would love for generations, like Lydia, Raven, Sam Manson from Danny Phantom. Like, there was just something about the style that they gave to Rogue that just resonated. And kind of wrapping out the main characters there was Kitty Pryde. Now, this was the series that made me love Shadowcat. This is the series that will be the reason why I will always love to see Shadowcat involved in anything, because Kitty Pryde was so much fun in this series. And I was glad they got rid of the Valley Girl accent after the first season. That was a little too much. But, they made Kitty Pryde what I felt she always needed to be. The youngest, well, second youngest next to, I think, Nightcrawler or something. But one of the younger characters had this great relationship with Wolverine, got in relationships here and there. Her on and off against relationship with Lance Alvarez was actually really endearing, and I was always interested to see where that would go. Her friendship with Nightcrawler was a lot of fun. There was just so much going on with Kitty that just really made her feel appealing as a character. And dude, when the New Mutants came in the second season, I was so ready. They included Iceman Bobby Drake, who I wish they included in more situations, because I feel like they didn't do him enough justice. Like, this is the second X-Men series that just didn't do enough with Iceman. Like, dude, he can do so much. People really need to stop hating on Iceman. You had Cannonball Sam Guthrie, who was fun when you actually had him involved in situations. I don't feel like they did enough with his character for the most part. Magma Amara Aquila, who was okay. Jubilee, oh god. Jubilee was the one character who, when they included her, I didn't know who the character was. Like, because she didn't show off her ability as much as I would have liked. Like, they just really downplayed her character for the most part. And I actually liked Jubilee in the 90s series, and they just didn't do enough with the character here. And for a series set in high school for the most part, I'm just like, guys, come on. But the cast of characters was really big, so it's just like, okay, I guess you can't really give attention to everybody. That was the thing about a lot of the New Mutants. It's because they gave them that standard uniform that made it so that they just really didn't stand out from each other for the most part. Not the way I wished they did. They could have done more to mix up the way that they looked. Wolfsbane was okay. Again, not enough for Wolfsbane. I think she rarely ever spoke, and I really don't remember her in most of the series. I do remember multiple. I don't think they called him Multiple Man, just Multiple. Well, let me see. Yeah, there we go, Multiple. Jamie Madrox. They mostly used him as a gag, mostly because whenever something would bump into him, he just boom duplicates. He just duplicate all over the place. It'd just be like, dude, what the heck is wrong with you? And that was fun. They also had this character called Berserker, who I'm just like, where did you come from? Because it feels like they just included him for the hell of it. And I'm just like, guys, come on. You didn't need to just up and include some random dude from the Morlocks just to round out the cast. You had enough. Like, and you also had Sunspot, and oh man, they did not do enough with Sunspot. It's just all these characters that just didn't have enough going on with them. But other characters that I love was the villains, the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and Mystique. Ooh, man, Mystique. Oh, I loved Mystique in this series. Oh my goodness, it was so much fun. They changed up her design from the first to second season. I think to make her look more like Kurt, but regardless, I loved having her be the principal for the high school, and so she'd be watching over Xavier's kids and eventually trying to pull them over to Magneto's side and all that. That was a lot of fun. And they also took the character of Avalanche, and I feel like they merged him with another character. Yeah, Richter. I feel like they merged him with Richter in order to create a completely different character, which I'm not hating on. This is the most attention that Avalanche has ever gotten in any form of media, and I loved his rivalry with Cyclops and his temper, and just he was the one character who stood out the most from the Brotherhood. It was really kind of fun, and his relationship with Kitty was interesting and all that. I don't know, they just did something with the character that really stood out to me. Also, Toad. Dude, what they did with Toad in this series, it was weird, the kind of gangsta-like voice they kind of gave him. But Toad was actually pretty fun, especially in the episode where he clashed against Nightcrawler. I thought that was pretty cool. Blob, was okay. Kind of dumb, but very strong. The episode that introduced her was actually pretty cool for the most part. Quicksilver was a great addition, mostly because of his arrogance, his impatience, but he was just really a jerk for the most part, and his rivalry with Spike was something else. Like this, it made me see Quicksilver as an just asshole for the most part, and it's been so hard to get out of that frame of mind. It was only helped thanks to his portrayal in Days of Futures Past. That is like the only thing that's kind of made me come along to the character and all that. And Scarlet Witch, they took her in a more tortured direction, and I think this came out before House of M was even a thing, so they were really getting ready, ramping up just how tortured an entity she could really be, and giving her this hatred of Magneto and this, that, and the other. It got really intense with her character. But they didn't make her overpowered for the most part, which I really enjoyed. She felt dangerous and deadly, and just honestly, this was the most intense version of the Scarlet Witch, and made me see her as a character who really shouldn't be messed around with. You had Magneto, who was, dude, Magneto in this series felt dangerous. Like, Magneto always felt dangerous before, but they made him this ominous figure lurking in the shadows, ready to strike in any way, shape, or form possible. That was a lot of fun. Sabretooth, they couldn't make him a psychotic killer like he originally is, but honestly, this was the next best thing. He felt violent, he felt dangerous, he felt like a tough enemy that only Wolverine could go up against. It was really kind of fun. I really dug the direction they took with Sabretooth. Gambit, he could be the most Gambit you could possibly get with a character. Sometimes he'd be an ally, sometimes he'd be an enemy, and it was always hard to tell which way things would go with him. Colossus was placed on the side of the villains as well, but that was only because Magneto had manipulated him into doing so. They didn't do enough with Colossus, I honestly feel. I would have loved to have seen more of him and got to know more about his story if we had gotten another season. Pyro was a pyromaniac. I think they made him a little bit crazier, pretty much. And then there was also Mastermind. Yeah, I don't care about Mastermind. Boom Boom was also in this series, and they did a good amount with Boom Boom. Gave her a bunch of really fun episodes until she kind of dropped off after a certain point. But I really did have fun with the character while she was around. I think she jumped ship after a certain while, which was something else. And this was the first appearance by X-23. Man, it wasn't the best and most noteworthy appearance, but it was an interesting one. And when they worked her into the comics, I was taken off guard because it was a much more intense depiction than this, but it just goes to show that, hey, sometimes animated series need to just do their own thing, go in their own directions, and you get fantastic characters out of them, because X-23 just feels like she's always been in the series, has always been an X-Men, and I'm really glad for it. Angel, they didn't do enough with Angel. He appeared a few times here and there, and that was about it. I do constantly remember I think the first time he appeared, which was like a Christmas episode, I think it was, and I remember it being a very sweet episode. It was very nice. When they introduced Havoc, oh man, they did so much more with Havoc than the 90s series. I loved it when they had gone out to just meet up with him, and he was out in Hawaii becoming a surfer and all that. Havoc was a fun character who I wish appeared just a little bit more over the course of the series. You had Danny Moonstar, who, yeah, they didn't do enough with that character. I do remember the episode where she originally appeared and being kind of freaked out by it, but that was honestly about it. Forge got some time to shine. I do remember his episode as well, because he ended up encountering Nightcrawler, and I remember getting kind of freaked out by it, because it's just like he got pulled from time because he was way too smart and all that. But that episode was a great one. A few memorable introductions to characters here and there. You had other characters like Apocalypse, who showed up, and it was pretty cool and all that, but I don't feel like he was as interesting as his 90s counterpart. The Juggernaut showed up, but they made him a mutant, I'm pretty sure. But I love the design that they gave him. It was actually pretty cool. You had Legion appear, but they didn't do enough with this character, and they mixed it up in a way that I just wasn't that into. It gave him like manifestations of his emotions and all that good stuff. It was an okay situation, but it could have been a lot better. But yeah, that's X-Men Evolution. It was a great and fantastic series that really brought the characters back to a younger age, made them feel really fun and interesting, and I easily would have kept watching this series for at least a couple more seasons here and there. There was just something engaging about what they did with it, because it went in a direction that X-Men was really going in ever since the introduction of the New Mutants in the comics, and that's young kids, they grow up, they develop, they become part of the X-Men, the team goes on, new characters are introduced, they become students. This cycle of progression that I thought was really fun and I really enjoyed. They explored the characters in ways that the 90s series never really got to, if only just because of the fact that the 90s series was mostly just going off of one direction for the characters, whereas this one decided to go in another. And I don't think that's a bad thing. You get so much from these series that just decide to go in their own direction. This series really did help to bring a new generation into loving X-Men. And while some will always cling to this one specifically, I feel that that's not a bad thing. Everybody has the X-Men version that they love. Can't hate people for loving these characters in their own special way. But tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. Did you watch X-Men Evolution? Did you enjoy X-Men Evolution? Do you feel that it was a superior version of these characters? Or did it leave a lot to be desired for you? Let me know in the comment section below, and if you liked this video, please like, comment, and subscribe for more. And until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.